Apparently, punching a cop is now part of congressional oversight. Well, that's what some Democrats are claiming after things got physical at an ICE facility. Representative Andy Ogles wrote about this for theblaze.com, and he's here to break it down and to tell us what needs to happen next. So, Representative, thank you so much for being here tonight from the great state of Tennessee. We love Tennessee. But the headline of your column is "Punch a Cop, Get a Charge," even if you're in Congress. Now, that seems pretty basic, but common sense isn't always practiced there in Washington, D.C.
No, it isn't. And so, I'm on the Financial Services, but also the Homeland Security Committee. And so Secretary Noem was before the committee, and I asked her the very question. Obviously, as Congress members of Homeland Security, we have an oversight responsibility when it comes to Homeland and ICE. I said, does that give us the right to break into a detention facility? Obviously, the answer is no. Does that give us the right to assault a member of law enforcement? Obviously, the answer is no. And so, look, whether you're, Joe the plumber, stay-at-home mom, member of Congress, the rules apply. You can't punch a cop. State, federal, local. I mean, this is common sense, folks. And let's be honest. I mean, these are the folks that keep us safe day in and day out. And for woke, radical mayors to frame ICE as bad guys, or the mayor of Boston just said that compared ICE to neo-Nazis, that type of dangerous rhetoric is why we're seeing a 413% increase on attacks against our federal law enforcement. Enough is enough. It's time to hold this member of Congress accountable for punching a police officer, but you can't do.
Now, my understanding is that we have the official Democrat leader of the House and AOC, threatening the other way, federal agents and President Trump if they hold McIver accountable.
Well, I mean, what I can say is that since those kind of pronouncements were made, 2 federal charges have been levied against the member, and obviously nothing's happened. But that being said, this again adds to that dangerous rhetoric of, you can't assault a member of law enforcement. And look, you can agree or disagree with President Trump. You can agree or disagree with Congress, but that doesn't mean that you can go out and, conduct violence. And that applies to members of Congress. If I'm in a bar and I get into a fight, guess what? I was a guy that was in a bar and got into a fight. If you're a member of Congress, you're in front of a nice detention center and you get into a fight, guess what? You got into a fight, and those same laws apply. So and again, we've got to stand up. I was at a press conference the other day with ICE, and I said, look, not only do I stand with ICE, we the people, we stand in front of ICE, meaning that we support them so much that no longer are we going to tolerate these attacks against our members of law enforcement. You're going to have to come through us first, because again, we've got to get back to this idea of rule of law, law and order. And we have 10 million people or more that came here illegally. It's not my fault. It's not your fault that the Democrats promised them some sort of amnesty. They told them it was okay by way of leaving our border unsecure. Guess what? The president of the United States, Donald Trump, has secured this border. In the big, beautiful bill, whether you like it or not, it has more money for securing the border, has more money for deportations. The goal is 3,000 a day, detain and deport. I would say that we need to be doing 10,000 a day. You came here illegally, I'm sorry, but you need to go back home. You need to go get in line. You have to come here the right way.
Yeah, let's shift this conversation into Nashville specifically, because last week you rightfully called out Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell. You said the obstructionist that is happy to have the sanctuary jurisdiction to stop local and federal law enforcement to aid and abet illegals. So what's the latest on that situation now?
It's just so your viewers understand. So you had an ICE operation that took place in Nashville, and the mayor of Nashville has instructed law enforcement, fire department, public works to basically snitch on ICE to report any of their activities so that the mayor can then put that information online so people can invade law enforcement. Furthermore, the mayor's office doxed the federal agents and put their names online. Now, what you have to understand that these cartels, they're not just gangs. We sometimes think of them as street gangs. These are very large, very sophisticated albeit corporations, their distribution and their reach into the United States of America would rival FedEx. And so if they have a name, if they have a photograph of an ICE agent, they can figure out who that person is. They can figure out where their family lives, and it's putting members of law enforcement at risk. And so this type of behavior is unacceptable. Furthermore, there's a community oversight board for the Metro Police Department, and the mayor of Nashville was encouraging citizens to file complaints against his own police. Again, unacceptable. This type of rhetoric is dangerous. You had the mayor of Boston who literally just compared again the ICE agents to neo-Nazis. That's totally unacceptable. And again, we see an increase on attacks against our law enforcement because of these woke, radical activist mayors who are literally siding with murderers and rapists, drug smugglers, and child traffickers versus their own citizens.
Congressman, you had a take on X that I thought was great. I think I liked it about how Musk's tweets before today helped reset the conversation on the big beautiful bill. But as I'm sure you know, things have escalated a lot since then. So we have to get a pulse check from you on that and what's unfolding there. What unfolded today?
Well, as a member of Congress, obviously I'm focused on the big beautiful bill, not the big beautiful brawl. But that being said, look, that's between those two individuals, those two men. But what I will say when it comes to Elon criticizing the House version of the bill, it does create a reset where the Senate has the opportunity to make the bill better, to have some additional cuts. Their self-imposed deadline is before July 4th. They'll kick it back to the House, hopefully with more cuts, making it more beautiful, and then we'll vote on it there at mid-July. And again, that was the President Trump's priorities. He wanted to make his tax cuts permanent. He wanted no tax on tips. He wanted no tax on overtime. He wanted to secure the border, and he wanted more deportations. And that's what the bill delivers. Now, I would say the bill's not perfect. There's much more that needs to be done, which is why next week we'll be voting on a $9.3 billion rescission package where we're taking money back from the government and putting it back to the American people by way of the Treasury.
Okay, well, let's go back to the punching in Congress. I'm curious your thoughts about the importance of setting a precedent, for charging a sitting member of Congress, especially given that I don't see a lot of people on the left calming down. It seems like their potential is for more of these kinds of protests and incidents.
Well, members of Congress, members of the public, we the people, we have a right to peacefully protest. Once you cross that line and it becomes violent, then that's a different conversation. And we've got to respect the rule of law. We've got to respect our law enforcement. Again, you can vehemently disagree with your local PD or state police or ICE or whomever, but you can't attack them. And again, when you see in some of these communities where it's tough to be a police officer, law enforcement recruitment, again, local, state, federal, all across the board, recruitment is down because they get, made the villain, even though they're the good guys and gals keeping us safe every day. And so I think it's important that these charges are levied, even if she gets some sort of probation or whatever. That's well outside my purview and opinion, quite frankly. That being said, I think that the right thing was done here. You cannot assault a member of law enforcement, period. I don't care who you are.
Congressman, thank you so much. On brawls, from ICE facilities to the brawls that are going on social media, we really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you.